What if the secret to wealth was not in working harder, but in simply assuming it to be yours? But in simply assuming it to be yours. Ladies and gentlemen, I say to you tonight, wealth is not something outside of you. It is not something to be pursued, to be struggled for, or to be earned through toil alone. Wealth is a state of consciousness, a dwelling place of the mind, and until you assume it as your own, it shall remain distant, elusive, always just out of reach. You do not attract money. You become the consciousness that money is drawn to. Every dollar you will ever hold, every opportunity you will ever receive, every avenue through which wealth may come, it all begins within you. The mind is the only reality, and as you think, you create. The world you see is the world you have imagined, for imagination creates reality. Many believe that wealth is the result of action alone. They believe that financial success is reserved for those who work the hardest, who put in the longest hours, who sacrifice and suffer to obtain it. But I tell you, wealth is a state of being, not a product of labor. Have you not seen those who work tirelessly yet remain in poverty? And have you not seen those who seem to do little yet receive much? The difference is not in their effort, but in their consciousness of wealth. If a man holds in his mind the belief that money is scarce, that he must fight for every dollar, that he is bound to a life of struggle, then he has already sealed his fate. For what he assumes to be true of himself, he must experience. He may labor from dawn to dusk, yet his hands will always be empty. His external world, being only a reflection of his inner state, can show him nothing but lack, for his consciousness is one of poverty. But the one who assumes the feeling of wealth, who walks through life with the quiet assurance that he is already rich, who does not question when or how, but simply knows that all he desires is already his, this man will see riches flow to him in ways he never could have planned. He does not chase wealth, for he is wealth. And as surely as a magnet draws iron, his state of consciousness draws to him the material expression of that which he has assumed. You must understand, money is not the source, it is the result. The source is the state of mind from which you operate. If you wish to experience financial abundance, you must first enter the state of abundance. You must claim within yourself, I am wealthy, and live from that knowing. This is not wishful thinking, nor is it self-deception. This is the law of mind in action. The great mistake so many make is in believing they must first see the evidence before they can believe in the reality. They say, I will feel wealthy once I have money in my hands. But I tell you, you will have money in your hands once you feel wealthy. The outer world is only the shadow cast by the inner world. If you would change the shadow, you must first change the light that produces it. Do not wait for money to prove to you that you are rich. Speak the language of wealth. Think the thoughts of one who has all he desires. Act as though you already possess the riches of the world. When you sit at your table, know that it is the table of a wealthy man. When you write, know that your pen moves with the confidence of one whose success is assured. There is no power outside of you that withholds wealth. There is no external force dictating who shall be rich and who shall be poor. The only barrier between you and financial abundance is your own consciousness. If you would assume the state of wealth, it would not matter where you were born, what your education is, or what others believe to be possible for you. The moment you take on the feeling of wealth, the moment you accept it as your reality, the world must reshape itself to reflect that assumption. If today you see lack, if today you see limitation, do not despair. Simply change the assumption, withdraw your attention from appearances, and direct it toward the unseen reality. For what you persistently assume in your mind must take form in your world. This is not a matter of chance, nor is it reserved for a select few. This is the law that governs all things. Ask yourself now, what would it feel like if you were already financially free? Not tomorrow, not in some distant future, but now, right here, in this very moment. How would you think? How would you walk? What conversations would you have? Take hold of that feeling and refuse to let it go. Dwell in it. Saturate your mind with it. Live in it so fully that it becomes more real to you than the evidence of your senses. When you do this, when you assume the consciousness of wealth, you will find that money comes effortlessly. It will arrive through unexpected channels in ways you could never have planned. Doors will open where there were none before. Ideas will come that lead to opportunities. Those who doubted you will wonder at your sudden transformation, but you will know the truth. You will know that the change was not in the world, but in you. Wealth is not outside of you, it is within you. It is not something you must earn, it is something you must accept. And the moment you do, it will flow to you as naturally as the tide returns to the shore. Hold to the assumption, live in the feeling, and watch as the world arranges itself to bring you the riches that have always been yours. What if wealth is not measured by the number in your bank account, but by the assumptions you hold about yourself and the world? If you assume yourself to be poor, if you believe that money is difficult to obtain, if you feel yourself to be limited by circumstances, then, no matter how hard you work, the world will reflect that assumption. You may chase wealth, but it will always elude you, for the state of lack cannot produce the experience of abundance. But if you assume that you are already rich, if you take on the feeling of financial abundance, if you walk through life with the quiet confidence that money flows easily to you, then the outer world must conform to this inner conviction. For assumption, when sustained, hardens into fact. It is not action that creates wealth. It is the consciousness of wealth that draws it to you. The action that follows is only the natural unfolding of that inner state. The world tells you that wealth is reserved for the few, that you must fight for your share, that money is limited. But this is a deception, for there is no limit to financial abundance. There is only the limit that you accept in your own mind. The one who sees money as scarce will experience a world where money is always scarce. But the one who knows himself to be rich will find that money comes from unexpected places, that opportunities appear where there were none, that doors open effortlessly, not because he has worked harder, but because he has assumed the consciousness of wealth. Do you not see that the rich and the poor live in the same world, yet experience entirely different realities? One walks with confidence, knowing that money is always available, that there is no lack, no struggle. The other walks in fear, believing that wealth is fragile, that opportunities are rare, that money is something to be hoarded rather than something that flows. But their experience is not dictated by the world, it is dictated by their assumptions. The great mistake is in believing that you must first see the wealth before you can believe in it. But the truth is the opposite. You must first believe in wealth before you can see it. The mind is the cause, the world is the effect. You do not change your financial reality by working harder, by struggling more, by hoping for better luck. You change it by changing your inner state. Imagine for a moment that you are already financially free. Feel it as though it were true now. Do not think of wealth as something coming in the future. Experience it in the present moment. How do you walk? How do you speak? How do you think? What emotions fill your mind? Hold to that feeling, for that feeling is the key. If you persist in it, the world must conform to it. This is not wishful thinking. This is not daydreaming. This is the law of consciousness, the eternal truth that what you assume yourself to be, you must experience. The man who feels himself to be wealthy, even when there is no evidence of it in the physical world, will soon see his external circumstances shift to match his assumption. There is no force outside of you that determines whether you will be rich or poor. The only force is yourself, your beliefs, your assumptions, your inner conversations. If you continue to see yourself as someone who struggles financially, if you continue to say, I don't have enough, money is hard to come by, I can't afford that, then you are affirming to the world that this is the reality you wish to experience. And because the world is only the reflection of your inner state, it must comply. But the one who shifts his awareness of being, the one who speaks as though wealth is already his, who feels as though financial abundance is already a reality, will see the evidence appear before his eyes. He will find money coming from unexpected places, opportunities presenting themselves effortlessly, circumstances aligning in ways he never could have predicted, not because of luck, not because of chance, but because he has changed his inner world, and in doing so has changed the outer world. You do not need to struggle for money. You do not need to work yourself into exhaustion. You need only to change the way you see yourself. Be the person who is already wealthy. Think from the state of wealth. Feel the security of financial freedom, and the world will reflect it back to you. This is the only way that lasting wealth is created. If you would take on this assumption, if you would refuse to accept any thought of lack, if you would persist in the feeling of abundance no matter what the world shows you, then it would not be long before you see the evidence appear. Money would flow effortlessly, doors would open, circumstances would shift, all because you have taken on the consciousness of financial abundance. There is no separation between you and the wealth you desire, except the belief that it is separate. Let go of that belief. Assume it is already yours, and the world will prove you right. The great secret of creation is assumption. Whatever you assume to be true, whether consciously or unconsciously, shapes your world. Your life is nothing more than the imaging of your deepest convictions. The unseen reality within you, your beliefs, your assumptions, your inner conversations, becomes the seen reality before you. This is the great law, the eternal principle that governs all things. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is simply the sum total of your assumptions. The great secret of creation is whatever is assumed to be true, whether consciously or unconsciously, shapes the course of life. The world does not respond to wishes, hopes, or external effort. It responds only to assumptions. Every man is the sum total of his beliefs, and nothing appears in his world except that which he has first assumed to be real within himself. If he assumes himself to be poor, no matter how hard he works, he will continue to struggle. If he assumes himself to be prosperous, even in the face of lack, wealth will find its way to him. The outer world is nothing more than the crystallized form of inner conviction. It is not separate from the mind, but a direct reflection of it. This is why effort alone does not guarantee success. A man may toil endlessly, but if his inner state is one of limitation, his results will match that state. It is assumption, not action, that determines outcome. Action is only the bridge through which assumption expresses itself. The one who assumes himself to be wealthy will naturally take actions that align with that belief, while the one who assumes lack will act in accordance with scarcity. All transformation begins with a change in assumption. No external force is needed, no struggle against circumstances, only a shift in the inner state. The one who desires wealth must first assume the feeling of wealth. Not tomorrow, not at some distant point in the future, but now. If he waits for evidence before assuming, he will wait forever, for the world is only a mirror. The reflection cannot change before the source does. The secret is to persist in the assumption regardless of appearances. The senses will try to deceive, showing a world that reflects past assumptions. But assumption, when sustained, hardens into fact. Just as a seed, when planted, takes time to push through the soil and appear as a plant, so too does assumption require persistence before it takes form in the external world. Many abandon their assumptions too soon, reacting to what their senses show instead of remaining faithful to the unseen reality taking shape beneath the surface. To assume is to enter into the state desired and live from that place, mentally and emotionally. The man who assumes himself to be financially free walks, talks, and thinks from that perspective. He no longer speaks of lack, no longer reacts to temporary setbacks as though they are permanent. He moves through the world with a quiet confidence that all he needs will come to him, for he knows that the world must reflect his inner state. He no longer waits for money to prove his wealth. He proves to money that he is already wealthy by embodying that assumption. Doubt is the great destroyer of assumption. The moment doubt is entertained, the assumption weakens, and the external world remains unchanged. Many shift between assumptions, one moment believing in their wealth, the next questioning when and how it will arrive. This instability keeps them locked in the same cycle, for the world can only reflect what is consistently assumed. If the mind wavers, so too does the world. But the one who steadfastly assumes his wealth, who refuses to entertain thoughts of lack, who persists in the unseen reality, this one will see the world reshape itself in his favor. Imagination is the tool through which assumption is cultivated. By mentally rehearsing the experience of wealth, by seeing oneself already in possession of money, by feeling the relief, the security, the joy of financial abundance, assumption is strengthened. It is not enough to affirm words without conviction. The assumption must be felt. The subconscious responds only to feeling, not empty statements. A man may repeat that he is rich 1,000 times, but if deep within he still assumes himself to be poor, his words will bear no fruit. It is the feeling of the assumption that transforms reality. Every great success is preceded by an assumption. The wealthy man once assumed his wealth before he saw evidence of it. The prosperous business owner once assumed success before his business grew. The one who rises from poverty first assumed himself out of poverty and consciousness before the world could show him the way. Nothing appears by accident. All is drawn forth through the power of assumption. To assume a state is to claim it as real, to move through the world as though it were already so. This is not pretense or deception, but the simple recognition of the law of consciousness. The world is not determining fate. The assumptions held within are. The man who understands this takes control of his reality, choosing his assumptions carefully, refusing to accept circumstances as unchangeable, and persisting in the feeling of his wish fulfilled. Wealth, success, freedom, these are not attained by chance. They are claimed through the conscious direction of assumption. The one who desires change must begin within. If he would be rich, he must first assume the feeling of wealth. If he would be free, he must assume the feeling of freedom. If he would be successful, he must assume the feeling of success. By doing so, he aligns himself with the state he wishes to experience, and the world must conform to his new assumption. All things are possible to the one who assumes correctly and persists without wavering. The law does not fail, nor does it discriminate. The only requirement is faith in the assumption, the refusal to accept anything less than the desired state. Hold fast to the assumption, dwell in the feeling of its fulfillment, and watch as the unseen becomes seen, the invisible becomes visible, and the assumed becomes reality. Money is not a thing to be chased, nor is it something separate from you. It is a direct reflection of your inner state of being. The world has taught men to see wealth as something external, something to be earned through labor, luck, or opportunity. But money does not come because of hard work alone, nor does it appear by chance. It follows the assumptions you hold about yourself and your relationship to abundance. To the one who believes that money is scarce, life will reflect scarcity. No matter how hard he works, no matter how many opportunities come his way, his subconscious assumption of lack will ensure that money never stays. He may earn it, but it will slip through his fingers. He may receive a sudden gain, but circumstances will arise to take it away. His world can only reflect what he is within. He does not realize that his own consciousness of lack is the cause of his financial struggles. But to the one who assumes himself to be financially abundant, the world will bring unseen channels of supply. He does not labor anxiously, nor does he worry about how money will come. He simply knows that it does. He assumes the feeling of being wealthy before the evidence appears, and in doing so, he commands the world to arrange itself in accordance with that assumption. Money flows to him effortlessly, not because he struggles for it, but because he is internally aligned with the state of abundance. The secret is that money is not separate from you. It is not an object that you must fight for. It is a vibration, a state of consciousness that must be embodied. If you feel rich within, the outer world must mirror that feeling. If you feel poor, no amount of effort will change your reality. The mind is the cause, and money is only the effect. Change the cause, and the effect must follow. Most people place their faith in external conditions. They believe that their financial situation is determined by their job, the economy, or other people's willingness to pay them. But this is the great illusion. Money is not given to you by people. It is drawn to you by your consciousness. A man may be in the same profession for years, earning little, struggling to make ends meet. Then one day, he shifts his assumption. He begins to feel himself as wealthy, not in a distant future, but in the present. He walks differently, speaks differently, moves through the world with a quiet assurance that money is always available. And soon he finds that promotions, opportunities, or even unexpected sources of income begin to appear. His outer world reshapes itself to match his inner conviction. It is not action that creates wealth. It is the state from which action arises. The one who acts from a state of fear and desperation will only create more lack, no matter how hard he tries. But the one who acts from a state of confidence, knowing that money is always available, will move effortlessly into situations that bring financial success. His actions will be inspired, not forced. He will no longer chase money, for money will be drawn to him. The great mistake is believing that you must first have money before you can feel wealthy, but feeling is the secret. You must first assume the feeling of wealth before wealth can appear. The world does not bring you what you want. It brings you what you are. If you continue to dwell in thoughts of limitation, if you continue to affirm that you never have enough, then the world must comply with that assumption. You'll find yourself struggling not because life is unfair, but because you have unknowingly commanded life to give you struggle. The one who understands this law ceases to worry about money. He does not anxiously check his bank account, nor does he dwell in thoughts of financial insecurity. He disciplines his mind to assume only the best. He trains himself to feel rich in every moment, even if the physical evidence is not yet visible. And because he does this, the evidence must appear. Nothing is withheld from the one who assumes correctly. The moment you shift your inner state to that of wealth, you will see money flow in ways you never expected. Opportunities will arise, ideas will come, circumstances will shift to bring you what you have assumed to be true. But if you waver, if you allow yourself to be swayed by appearances, then you delay your own manifestation. The key is persistence in the unseen reality. To hold money in your hand is meaningless if your consciousness is still one of lack. But to hold wealth in your mind before it appears is to guarantee its arrival. Feel yourself as already possessing all that you need. Walk in the assumption that you are financially secure, that money flows freely to you, that every avenue of wealth is open. Do not look to the outer world for confirmation. Look within. The moment you assume it, the world must begin to shift. Money is not your master. It is your servant. It responds to your state of being. The one who takes control of his assumption, who refuses to dwell in lack, who remains firm in the feeling of financial freedom, will see the evidence unfold before his eyes. It is not magic. It is the natural law of consciousness. Assume wealth. Persist in the feeling, and the world will show you what has always been true. You are already abundant. Money is not something external to be gained, pursued, or accumulated. It is not an object separate from you, nor is it controlled by the economy, employers, or circumstances. It is an extension of your consciousness. a mirror reflecting the assumptions you hold about yourself and the world. Just as a shadow follows the body, so too does money follow your inner state. To understand this truth is to free yourself from the illusion that money is a limited resource that must be fought for. It is not bound by external rules, nor is it given only to those who work the hardest. Effort alone does not create wealth. Your state of being does. A man who believes himself to be poor, no matter how much he earns, will always find himself in lack. A man who assumes wealth, even when the evidence is absent, will soon find himself in possession of it. The world teaches that money must be earned through struggle. It conditions men to believe that financial success is reserved for the few, that wealth belongs only to those with privileged opportunities. But this is the great illusion. The truth is that money flows effortlessly to the one who aligns with it in consciousness. It is not earned by effort alone, but by the feeling of abundance. The one who truly understands this stops looking outside for wealth. He no longer seeks money as though it were something distant, something to be acquired. Instead, he becomes the source of wealth itself. Just as water flows to the lowest point effortlessly, money flows where it is welcome. The man who is always worried about money, who constantly fears losing it, unknowingly pushes it away. His inner state is one of scarcity. He may earn a paycheck, but unexpected expenses will arise to take it away. He may win money, but circumstances will soon return him to the state he unconsciously assumes. His problem is not the lack of money, it is the consciousness of lack. But to the one who assumes wealth as his natural state, money must come. He does not chase it, nor does he act from a place of need. He moves through life with the quiet assurance that money is always available. He sees himself as someone who has more than enough, and so he attracts experiences that confirm this assumption. He does not hoard or cling to money in fear of losing it, for he understands that money, like a river, must flow. The more freely it moves, the more abundantly it returns. The key is to stop seeing money as separate. It is not something you get. It is something you express. If you believe money is difficult to obtain, then it will be. If you believe it is abundant and easily accessible, it will be. Money simply reflects the state you assume. The mind is the cause and money is the effect. Change the cause and the effect must follow. Most people look at their financial situation and base their beliefs on what they see. If they have little money, they assume they are poor. If they are in debt, they assume lack is their reality. But this is living backwards. The outer world is only the reflection of past assumptions. It is not the cause of future wealth or poverty. If you continue to base your assumption on what you see, you will remain trapped in the same cycle. But if you dare to assume beyond appearances, if you persist in the feeling of financial abundance, even when circumstances suggest otherwise, then your world must change. The great secret is that money is not the source of security. Your consciousness is. There are those with millions who still feel insecure, who still fear losing it all, and so they create circumstances that confirm their fears. There are others who have little but feel financially free, and soon money begins to appear in unexpected ways. The determining factor is never the amount, it is the state of mind. To cultivate this state of wealth, begin by examining your inner conversation. What do you tell yourself about money? Do you say, I never have enough? Money is hard to come by. I can't afford this. If so, you are unknowingly affirming financial limitation. Your words, spoken or unspoken, shape your reality. To change your financial world, you must change your inner dialogue. Begin to speak as one who already possesses wealth. Say, money flows to me easily. I always have more than enough. My wealth increases effortlessly. These are not empty words. They are commands to the subconscious mind. Imagination is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. If you desire more money, do not wish for it. Assume it is already yours. Close your eyes and feel the sensation of financial abundance. Picture yourself handling money, spending it freely, giving and receiving without hesitation. Feel the relief, the joy, the certainty that comes with knowing that money is always available. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It simply accepts what you repeatedly impress upon it. The more vividly you assume the feeling of wealth, the faster it will manifest in your external world. Money is energy, and it must move. Those who cling to it in fear of loss create the very condition they dread. But those who spend, invest, and give freely, knowing that money is always available, open themselves to greater abundance. This is not reckless spending. It is conscious alignment with the flow of wealth. It is the understanding that money is not lost when it is spent, but rather it circulates and returns multiplied. The transformation happens the moment you stop seeing money as something separate from you, the moment you stop believing in scarcity, the moment you assume financial ease as your natural state. From that point forward, money will no longer be something you pursue. It will be something that responds effortlessly to you. The outer world must bow to the assumption held within. Assume wisely, persist unwaveringly, and the wealth you seek will reveal itself as the wealth you have always possessed. The world teaches men to believe in the evidence of their senses. It tells them to look at their bank account, their debts, their income, and to form conclusions based on what they see. But to live this way is to remain bound by appearances, trapped in a cycle of limitation. The truth is that wealth is not something found in numbers or possessions. It is a state of consciousness, and that state must be assumed first, before any physical evidence appears. A man who believes himself to be poor will remain poor, not because the world is against him, but because he has accepted poverty as his truth. He may struggle, he may labor endlessly, but as long as his inner feeling remains one of lack, his circumstances must reflect that assumption. He does not realize that he is the operant power, that his world is only a mirror reflecting his own inner state. If he wishes to change his financial reality, he must begin by changing the one thing that truly matters, his feeling about money. The great secret is that the feeling of financial freedom must come before the evidence. Most believe they will feel wealthy once they have money, but this is living backwards. It is not money that creates the feeling of wealth. It is the feeling of wealth that creates money. The mind precedes the physical world. The moment one assumes the feeling of being financially free without needing to see proof, the world begins to shift in response to that assumption. Feeling is the secret. One cannot simply repeat affirmations mechanically, hoping that words alone will change reality. Words are only effective if they are saturated with belief and emotion. If a man says, "I am wealthy," but deep within he still feels poor, his words are powerless. It is not enough to think wealth. One must feel it as though it were already true. When the inner feeling of financial freedom is fully accepted, the outer world must arrange itself to reflect that state. The feeling must be definite. It cannot be vague or uncertain. It cannot be something one hopes for in the future. It must be a present reality in the mind, lived in consciousness as though it were already so. The one who truly understands this does not wait for money to feel secure. He feels secure first, and then money flows. He does not wait for wealth to arrive before he acts confidently. He assumes confidence now, and wealth follows. The world is not separate from him. It is the projection of his inner state. There are those who say, "I will feel abundant when I have more money," but they will wait forever, for they have placed the cause outside of themselves. They do not see that it is their very lack of feeling abundant now that keeps wealth at a distance. The mind is always creating, always shaping reality in perfect accordance with what is believed and felt. To feel financially insecure is to create conditions that affirm that insecurity. But to feel wealthy, truly, deeply, unquestionably wealthy, is to summon experiences that confirm that assumption. The method is simple, yet few truly apply it. To assume the feeling of financial freedom, one must go beyond thought and enter the world of imagination. One must see oneself already in possession of wealth, already living with ease, already free from financial worry. The senses may argue otherwise. The bank account may show little, debts may still exist, but these things are only past manifestations of old assumptions. They have no power unless one gives them power. The wise man does not react to appearances. He remains faithful to his assumption, knowing that what is felt within must soon be seen without. Every great fortune began with a state of mind. Every man who has risen from poverty to wealth first had to assume the feeling of financial abundance before the means appeared. He did not dwell on what he lacked. He did not look to the world for signs of improvement. He looked only within, knowing that the outer world is but a shadow cast by the inner state. He persisted in his feeling of wealth, even when there was no physical proof. And because he did, the world had no choice but to conform. There is no need to figure out how money will come. The mind that assumes financial ease does not concern itself with the details of its manifestation. It simply knows that money must come, and it does. Channels will open, opportunities will arise, circumstances will shift in unexpected ways. But these are only the reflections of the inner certainty. The one who wavers, who allows doubt to creep in, delays his own abundance. But the one who remains steadfast in his feeling of financial security will see proof unfold with perfect precision. To live in the feeling of financial freedom is not to live recklessly, nor is it to ignore practical matters. It is to walk through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that money is never a concern. It is to assume ease in every transaction, to expect prosperity in every endeavor, to know that there is always more than enough. The world does not respond to desperation, it responds to certainty. The one who feels rich will find riches. The one who feels lack will find more lack. The law is absolute. The question is not whether wealth is possible, but whether one is willing to assume it before seeing it. The great mistake is waiting for the world to change before changing within. But the wise man knows that he must first become in consciousness what he wishes to experience in reality. He assumes financial freedom in the present moment, lives in the feeling of already having it, and in doing so, he commands the world to reflect his assumption. This is the key. Not effort, not struggle, not waiting for circumstances to change. The change begins within. The moment one fully accepts the feeling of financial abundance, the world must bow in obedience. Assume wisely, feel deeply, persist unwaveringly, and the evidence will follow. The law cannot fail. Everything you seek, including wealth, is not outside of you, it is within you, waiting to be assumed and expressed. The world is not a force acting upon you, but a mirror reflecting back the state of consciousness you occupy. If you continue to believe that money is scarce, that financial freedom is difficult to attain, then life will confirm those beliefs. But if you dare to assume wealth, to live in the feeling of already having it, then nothing in this world can stop it from becoming your reality. Money is not the cause of security, your consciousness is. Circumstances do not determine your financial reality. Your inner state does. The great secret is that you do not attract money, you radiate it. You are not separate from abundance, you are its source. The more you feel wealth as a present reality, the more it flows to you effortlessly, in ways beyond reason or logic. The law is precise, it does not fail. This truth requires no struggle, no external force, only a radical shift in perception. You must assume the feeling of financial freedom before the evidence appears. You must persist in that assumption despite what the senses suggest. You must hold firm to your inner wealth, knowing that what is felt within must be expressed without. If you accept this truth and apply it unwaveringly, your world will change. Money will cease to be a concern, for you will have stepped into the consciousness of abundance. You will no longer chase wealth. It will seek you, flow to you, respond to you. And in that moment, you will realize that financial freedom was never something to be attained. It was always who you truly are.